Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked into the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino call-in line at 405-329-9000 or text the show at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton.
I learn something new every day in these offices.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you hang out with Steely every day.
Exactly, and that's generally why I learn something new. I've been doing background research on the Canadian rapper Snow ever since he played a snippet of Snow's one-hit song in the last segment of our show. And so I've been reading the Wikipedia page for our boy Snow, and I ran across, apparently this guy's Canadian, but you listen to the song and he sounds Jamaican, and the reason he sounds Jamaican is because he lived in a neighborhood that had an influx of Jamaican immigrants growing up, so he became adept at the dialect. But then you get to this part of his Wikipedia page. In 1987, Snow served 8 months of a one-year sentence after pleading guilty to beating a person with a crowbar during a bar brawl.
See, now that's not something you would ascribe to our friends north of the border.
No, generally Canadians are much more docile than that.
They are the nicer of the North American countries.
Generally very nice people.
Yes.
Not Snow, apparently.
I guess
apparently he beats people with crowbars. I'm kind of surprised homie only got a year after beating someone with a crowbar.
Shoot, I guess
that feels like something that would carry a little bit more serious of a charge.
I was about to say, I guess in America you'd probably be behind bars for a little bit longer.
I mean, in Canada, I would think that could get you a life sentence.
I mean, shoot.
You're probably back. This is the worst thing that's happened in this province for years.
But probably. I mean, shoot, maybe Canada's like, all right, go to jail for 1 year. We'll make you feel like you don't ever want to be here, and a year's good. You'll probably be a model citizen after that. I don't know.
Oh, Canada. In the words of Barney Stinson, why do we let you be a country? 405-651-3439 is the text line if you want to chime in throughout the show. We love interacting with all of you on a daily basis, both via the text line and the YouTube chat. We are on YouTube. Subscribe to the KREF Sports YouTube channel to make sure you never miss any of the content that we are firing your way on a daily basis. The show today is brought to you by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Folks, if you're shopping around for a new vehicle, you're going to want to give Dorsey Jones a try. GMC, of course, offers some of the most reliable trucks and SUVs on the road today, and Dorsey Jones complements that with their outstanding service, including half-price oil changes on Saturdays. So make the short drive out to El Reno and check out Dorsey Jones. Patrick with another How I Met Your Mother-ism. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Yes, indeed. Stay out past 2 a.m., you wind up beating people with crowbars and catching charges.
Well, hey, first of all, before we go any further, why was a crowbar his weapon of... Like, who walks around with crowbars?
I don't know, man. I also, in a bar brawl, why is there just a crowbar sitting around in a bar?
I was about to say.
Canada's a weird place, man. You know who definitely was up past 2 a.m. last night? Curt Cignetti and the Indiana Hoosiers. After capping off one of the more memorable seasons that we've seen in American sports in the 21st century. The University of Indiana, or I'm sorry, I should say it properly. Indiana University Bloomington is the national champion in the year of our Lord 2026. They reigned supreme over the college football world after their 27-21 victory over Miami yesterday. In the finale of the college football playoff, the Hoosiers finish 16-0, and Curt Cignetti has officially orchestrated the most remarkable program turnaround that we have seen in the modern era of college football. I mean, this defies explanation. This is so out of the ordinary, such an outlier with all that we have come to know and expect that is commonplace or accomplishable, attainable in the modern college football landscape. Indiana is your national champion. And we talked about this yesterday, Grayson. If the Hoosiers won this game it was probably going to create a bit of a philosophical shift across the sport. And for you, what are your big picture takeaways after watching Indiana complete the perfect season last night and stretch that thing to 16-0 after beating Miami?
It makes me love college football even more. And I know I'm going to be in the minority when I say this, but I like college football today better than it was 10 years ago. I just do. And the reason being is that it demonstrates that because you can no longer stack 4 and 5 stars on a team, you know what it is? Get good leadership in the building, get you a little bit of financial backing, get you a guy with a vision, with a plan, and a buttoned-up culture, and anybody can do it. Curt Cignetti said it best in his interview after the game. We did it at Indiana University. And everything that I just laid out describes how he goes about it. He doesn't keep his coordinators and coaches in the building till 3 a.m. He has a clear blueprint for the type of players that he wants to bring in. And he is a leader and a master overseer of it all. And when the time comes, that leadership came out where it said, you know what, we got to go win this game. And it took a lot of guts to make some of the calls that he made. And he pushed every right button. So from an administrative perspective, he was excellent. From a coaching perspective, he was excellent. And it is proof that if you have a little bit of financial backing and you've got a leader with a clear vision, anything is possible. That was not the case 10 years ago, but it is the case now. And that's why I love college football more now than ever.
Here's a slant that I have on Indiana's victory last night. This was one of my first thoughts when the game went final. And at first, as everyone should, in my opinion, I just kind of sat back and did my best to appreciate history unfolding before our very eyes. This was a historic season for Indiana, a historic and masterful coaching job by Curt Cignetti. One of those campaigns that those who witnessed it, those who covered it, those that were along for the ride will remember forever. But then my thought was, Curt Cignetti just made life infinitely more difficult for every other new head coach in America.
And I would say current one too.
And I started to see this immediately when the game went final on social media last night. People from all over the country who adhere to loyalty I should say harbor loyalty to another Power 4 institution, whoever that may be. It's all with Texas, Washington, like all over the place. And these people are on social media saying, how on earth can we not do what Curt Cignetti just did at Indiana? What is our guy's excuse? What are we not doing here that they're doing there? And the fact that Curt Cignetti, in 2 seasons, just took Indiana from the losingest program in the history of college football to the national champions of the sport means that everything moving forward, every coaching tenure, every new regime is going to be judged by some according to the Cignetti standard. If you don't see the type of instantaneous turnaround that you saw at Indiana, more so than in the past, you're going to have folks asking why. What are you doing wrong? Why can't you fix what is broken here quicker than you're fixing it? Why can't we have more success here than what we're currently having? Why can't we break through and win a national championship if Indiana can break through and win a national championship? And man, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know that that is great for the sport. And it's just kind of like nothing you can do about it. It's a natural consequence of a development such as this. But I have no doubt that in years ahead, you're going to see coaches fired sooner than they probably should be. You're going to see fan bases that check out on a given coach or a given regime or a given team earlier than they should because they start to feel as though the Cignetti standard is not being met. And those people are fundamentally unaware of and oblivious to the reality that this is, I'll go back and I'll use the word I used a few minutes ago, Grayson, this is an outlier. This is not the norm. This should not be considered the norm. This should not reshape expectations for any other school, because what Cignetti and Indiana just did is entirely, fundamentally out of the ordinary.
Here's the part you're missing, though, Parker Thune. I think that expectation and those standards have already been in place. I think Curt Cignetti just exacerbated it. And the reason being why it was already in place is because once you got all this money coming in and people are now ponying over dollars to fund the rosters and whatnot, they're going to get more impatient because they want to see their dollars yield a return on investment. So I think what you just described is already in college football because we're seeing it now. We're seeing coaches get fired quicker, and all what's going to happen, the only thing that's going to happen is Curt Cignetti just made that worse by winning it. He didn't institute anything new. He just added on to the problem.
Scotty Takati on the text line points out, same thing happened in 2000 when Bob won it in his second year. It got Frank Solich and R.C. Slocum fired. I honestly hadn't even thought about that, but you're right. There's truth to that. Because Nebraska and Texas A&M, at the time, as Big 12 programs, what standard were they being judged against? Not necessarily the Bob Stoops standard specifically, but the Oklahoma standard.
Yeah.
Oklahoma-Nebraska, long-standing rivalry with huge implications year over year, especially throughout the duration of time that Barry Switzer and Tom Osborne overlapped. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, not the same thing, but obviously two programs that had a lot of familiarity, competed with one another in the Big 12 South, not only within the same conference but within the same division. And so there's a ton of truth to that. My thought was that the example that came to mind, if we're going to keep this conversation grounded here in 2025, is you look at what Tony Elliott just accomplished at Virginia. Tony Elliott just won 11 games at the University of Virginia. Came within a whisker of a college football playoff berth. They lost the ACC title game in overtime to Duke. Had they won that game, they were going to the CFP, and Miami was likely not going to make the field. Well, I guess no, it would have been Tulane that wouldn't have made the field. I take that back. Miami still would have, I suppose. But Virginia was that close to being in the college football playoff, which, similar to the state of Indiana football prior to Curt Cignetti, like that is so far above and beyond what the historic standard has been at the University of Virginia. To win 11 games, cap it off with a bowl victory. I think they played in the Music City Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, and beat Missouri. But they win 11 games under Tony Elliott. Most successful season of the 21st century for that program. And my thought was, 5 years from now, I don't know if that season happens, because I don't know if Tony Elliott is Virginia's head coach. In his first 3 seasons as the head coach of Virginia, Tony Elliott won 3 games, 5 games, 3 games, a total of 11. There are plenty of administrations across the country that even today, even right now, would have dismissed Elliott after 3 seasons like that, if that's how he had started out his career at their school. But Virginia stayed patient. They re-upped him for year 4. They wind up winning double-digit games, coming that close to winning the ACC for the first time in history, and come that close to making the college football playoff as well.
You know who I think is in real trouble right now? You know who I think is in real trouble?
Who's that?
Lane Kiffin. I think Lane Kiffin's in trouble, and here's why I think that. Because Lane Kiffin could win 8-9 games, have a 10-win season in there in his first 4 years, and be fired if they don't make a run in the college football playoff, because Curt Cignetti just did it at Indiana. We are coming off of a year where a coach who won 80% of his games at an institution was canned in September, that being James Franklin. Dude, everybody's in trouble. Like, who's next? Like, let's just do this exercise, Parker. Who's next? A coach who's going to be, or who has been, uber successful, but hasn't been able to make it over the top, a la Sean McDermott, who was fired by Buffalo yesterday. Who's next? The next name that comes to mind, Dan Lanning? Dan Lanning's been an uber successful coach at Oregon.
But he hasn't won the big one.
Mm-hmm. Like, when does Oregon get impatient with him?
Well, and there are certain jobs that are just pressure cooker jobs by nature.
True.
And there are heightened expectations there that have always kind of been baked into the pie. I think LSU, to your point, is a great example of this. Brian Kelly, you look at what he did at LSU. His 3 full seasons there, 10 wins, 9 wins. That wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Got fired midway through year 4. And so that's going to happen at a place like LSU. That's going to happen at a place like Florida.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what the Kalen DeBoer era at Alabama holds, because there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to live up to the impossible standard that Nick Saban established there. There are some jobs that just have heightened expectations by nature, and you can't really avoid that. But my fear is that Cignetti doing what he did at Indiana is going to create unreasonably heightened expectations everywhere in the P4.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's only going to make a persistent attitude of impatience that institutions have already started to display. It's going to make that attitude even worse and even more consequential for people, because they will see, like you laid out, losing his program ever, 2 years, national championship. People got to realize what he did was create his own perfect storm.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that many people in the world that can do that.
And the bleeper said, not everyone has Mark Cuban funding NIL. Okay, we have to stop with this.
Can we please
you
stop
didn't know
this?
You didn't know that Mark Cuban was in any way affiliated with Indiana University Bloomington until December.
Yes.
Like 6 weeks ago, you nor I nor anyone had any idea that Mark Cuban donated to Indiana at all. And we have no idea how much he donated. Could be a lot, could be a little. Doesn't matter, man. Indiana had a blue chip ratio of 8% and just won a national title. So I categorically refuse to comply with the notion and to concur with the notion that Indiana just won a national title because they're backed by Mark Cuban and because they just have a bunch of billionaires' money. That's very clearly not why this happened.
No.
But it is opening the door for a lot of philosophical conversations about what needs to be done elsewhere, what needs to be done at a place like Oklahoma to return the Sooners to the pedestal that Indiana currently occupies atop the sport. This conversation will roll on, and we will dig into some OU football and recruiting news throughout the show here on Locked In. Parker Thune, Grayson Singleton here with you on a Tuesday. Let's hit a quick break, hear from our fine sponsors. We'll return next with much more here on The Ref, the home of Sooner fans.
Locked In is brought to you every day by Dorsey Jones GMC in El Reno. Dorsey Jones GMC is family-owned and operated with a knowledgeable, low-pressure sales staff here to help you through the buying process and half-price oil changes on Saturdays. Visit dorsey-jonesgmc.com for more information.
After a car crash, life can be hard. You're hurt, stressed, and then, when you need help the most, the insurance company doesn't care.
They drag their feet, question your injuries, and make things difficult. They put profits over people.
At McIntyre Law, we level the playing field. We take on the billion-dollar insurance companies so you can focus on what matters, getting your life back. Call us at 405-777-7000. You deserve better.
A public service announcement from Oklahoma Human Services. Hey Oklahomans, did you know updating your SNAP food benefits info is a snap? Have you changed jobs or hours? Has your monthly cost of housing changed? Have your household members changed? Maybe you've recently moved. If you're a recipient of SNAP benefits in Oklahoma, visit okdhslive.org to update your information. That's okdhslive.org. It's a SNAP, Oklahoma.
For the professional, it's not enough to just possess knowledge. That's why at GMC, we seek to refine it, to wield its power, to redefine its boundaries, while pushing the limits. And we put this knowledge to the test in every GMC Sierra by engineering each one to outperform your expectations. So you know you're getting precision and durability when you need it most. And that's what makes the GMC Sierra the truck worth knowing. We are professional grade. See your Oklahoma GMC dealers.
Hey, this is OEC Fiber. Are you tired of slow internet? With our gig speed fiber, your whole household can stream, game, and work at the same time without buffering. OEC Fiber gives you reliable speeds up to a full gig and a friendly local support team in Oklahoma. Ready to plug in speed you can count on? Visit oecfiber.com or tap your screen now. That's OEC Fiber. Fast, local, and trustworthy.
Cats are masters at using up their 9 lives, like chasing laser pointers into walls or jumping onto high shelves. But the one thing cats never do? Text while driving. So be like a cat and protect your one and only life. Don't text and drive.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
As veterans, life can often feel like it gives us little control, spinning us through moments of turmoil and peace, companionship and loneliness. But with each challenge, we come closer to finding our place, out of darkness and into light. When it feels like your world is moving too quickly, you're not alone. VA is standing by. Explore mental health resources and treatments for veterans at mentalhealth.va.gov.
Morning weather changes quickly. Road conditions change even faster.
Be prepared and stay on time with KOCO 5 News in the morning.
Real-time traffic updates and your first alert forecast to help you stay on time and get there safely.
Sky 5, the only news helicopter flying for you every weekday morning.
Bringing you instant looks at slowdowns and alternate routes. Oklahoma City's most accurate forecast, so you'll know what to wear and when to make a dash out the door.
Trust KOCO 5 News in the morning.
Plumbing and air conditioning problems seem to happen at the worst time. Hey, it's Chris Plank here. And a while back when we had a plumbing issue at our home, our first call was to Norman Air. The team at Norman Air was great. From upfront pricing to alerts before the tech arrived. The whole experience from start to finish was great. With financing available to their Max membership and servicing from North Edmond all the way south to Purcell, Norman Air is the go-to for HVAC, plumbing, and electrical issues. Visit normanair.com today.
It is the Ref, the Oklahoma Sooner fans, locked in, rolling along here on a Tuesday. Parker Thune and Grayson Singleton with you in the Buffalo Wild Wings studios. Fielding your feedback on the text line at 405-651-3439. A lot of implications in the aftermath of Curt Cignetti and Indiana's victory in the national title game last night, and tying it back to what is happening here in God's country, Norman America, the Sooner State, the great state of Oklahoma. Big Wink on the text line says, I agree with the point you guys are making, but what about Oklahoma? It's pressure-packed. Is BV still on the hot seat? Okay, couple things here. One, no, Brent Venables is not on the hot seat right now. Brent Venables successfully coached his way off of the hot seat in 2025. If things regress in 2026 and the Sooners go 6-7, 7-6 again, obviously that will be disappointing. I don't think that will prompt the Oklahoma administration to move on from Venables as head football coach. So no, I do not think BV is still on the hot seat. Now, at Oklahoma, as at any other institution in the P4 with expectations of contention, championship contention at the very least, you have to win. You still have to win. Every year, you have to keep yourself off the hot seat. Every year, you can put yourself right back onto the hot seat. But right this second, no, Brent Venables is not on the hot seat. And as far as Oklahoma being a pressure-packed job, it's a yes and no type of deal. Because, for instance, let's rewind to Bob Stoops' tenure. Bob Stoops took Oklahoma to the national title in 2000, won it. Took Oklahoma back to the championship game in 03 and 04. Lost those two. Back to the national title game in 08. Lost that one as well. Then Sam Bradford left. And throughout the Landry Jones era, things kind of plateaued there. And after Landry Jones graduated, had the 2013 season that culminated in the Sugar Bowl victory over Alabama, it was by the Oklahoma standard of that time, it was a pretty nondescript season, capped with a very memorable victory over the Crimson Tide and a legendary performance from Trevor Knight. But then things kind of bottomed out in 2014. Oklahoma went 8-5 that year. Got shellacked in the Russell Athletic Bowl by Clemson. And I would submit that there are many programs across the country. Not like dozens, but I think, and maybe many isn't even the right word, there are certain programs across the country. How about that? There are certain programs across the country where if Bob Stoops was coaching at that particular school, 2014 would have been the end for him. Schools would have looked at that 8-5 season that was wholly uninspiring, featuring the law firm of Trevor Knight and Cody Thomas at the quarterback position. The only real positive highlight that I can recall from that campaign was Samaje Perine's 427-yard game. But there are schools across the country that would have dismissed Bob Stoops after 2014. Several on the text line brought up the example of Ed Orgeron at LSU. He was out 2 years, less than 2 years, after winning a national championship as the architect of what probably stands as the greatest college football team of the 21st century. I would go 2019 LSU just barely over 25 Indiana. And I'm too young to compare either of those two reliably to a team like Miami in 2001. But Ed Orgeron was out less than 2 years later. Bob Stoops at that point hadn't been to the national championship game in 5 years. Yeah, he won the Sugar Bowl, but I'm pretty sure in 2012, Oklahoma went to the Insight Bowl. So you have the Sugar Bowl sandwiched in between appearances in the Insight Bowl and the Russell Athletic Bowl. And there would have been plenty of schools that would have moved on. Oklahoma didn't. Bob Stoops returned to the sidelines in 2015, took Oklahoma to the college football playoff. And then to the Sugar Bowl again in 2016. And then I maintain that had he elected to coach one more season in 2017, he would have won another national title. Because I think the difference for Oklahoma in 2017 between losing in the Rose Bowl and winning a national championship was Bob Stoops rather than Lincoln Riley on the sidelines. But be that as it may, Oklahoma is a job that comes with pressure and it comes with expectations, Grayson. But I also think folks involved at the highest levels with Oklahoma football, the administration, the university, like even all the way up to the university president and Joseph Harris, who is very, very invested into Oklahoma's success on the gridiron. Those people are a lot more reasonable here than they are many other places.
Yeah, and that's the difference. The difference is going to be, and not just Oklahoma, but every other school is going to have to walk the line of, okay, when do we part ways with a coach that might be successful, and when do we become hyper-reactionary? Because the schools that are going to be hyper-reactionary are going to be paying a bunch of money for rosters, but they're also going to be paying exorbitant amounts of dollars in terms of buyouts as well, because these buyouts aren't going anywhere. And they're going to keep turning over coaches and turning over staffs, and the continuity is just not going to be there. And this is a day where we're talking about Indiana being the national champs. One of the special things about Indiana is that Curt Cignetti's there, and his coordinators that have been with him the entire time are there. So when you're consistently turning over staffs and turning over a head coach and turning over a leader, there's no continuity between the program and the coaching staff and the players. So you don't want to get into the business of being so reactionary and being uber impatient that you serve to your own detriment. At that point, you're the Jets. Right? Like at that point, that's what they do. So, yes, Oklahoma, you're gonna have all your expectations. You're gonna have some pressure, but this administration, at least as we know it, because we know there's gonna be an AD change on the horizon, this administration, as we know it, has demonstrated that, yeah, it might seem like you can plateau. We're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They did it with Stoops in the analogy you just brought up, and they did it with Venables. They've already done it with Venables. He's had 2 6 and 7 seasons at the University of Oklahoma. And you let him stay around just a little bit, give you the vote of confidence, you hosted a home playoff game. So I think Oklahoma, in that regard, is in a pretty solid space.
Yeah, and Larry from Cash on the text line said, did you just compare any Stoops coach team to the trash that we have seen from BV? Larry, can we chill? Oklahoma just went 10-2 and hosted a playoff game. Can we chill, please? For this offseason alone, can we just be happy with where the state of the program's at?
I will say this is an interesting question on the YouTube chat. Michael asks, Parker, do you know what Randall Stevenson's expectations are? Because he is in charge of football, not Joe C., nor will the new AD be in charge of football. I think I get what you're trying to say here. Is that does Randall Stevenson bring in a level of some sort of impatience if it's, triggered?
Yeah, I mean, Randall Stevenson has a lot of sway in those buildings, especially with regard to football. In that building and in those conversations, Randall Stevenson does have a ton of sway. But Randall Stevenson's been around for one season to this point in an advisory role with Oklahoma, and that one season, as I just mentioned, involved double-digit wins and the first home playoff game in the history of this great institution that is the University of Oklahoma. So, Randall Stevenson, as of right now, and I don't claim to know exactly what his expectations are, but he has no reason to be displeased with where things are at. He has no reason to feel that things are trending in a negative direction or have even plateaued, because all he's experienced in his time on staff with Oklahoma as the chair of football has been success. And it's maybe not the success that some of y'all on the text line are satisfied with. I get it. Some of y'all want to see that national title drought end and end soon. Don't we all? It's been 26 years since Oklahoma won a national championship. That's a long time. Longest drought of the modern era for the Sooners. Longest drought since they won that first national title in program history all the way back in 1950. Trust me, I want to see that drought end just as much as all of you do. There's one team that gets to hoist that trophy at the end of every season. It's a hard thing to do in the 12-team playoff era, to navigate that gauntlet. You think about who Indiana had to beat in order to stand under the confetti last night. They had to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. They had to beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl. They had to beat Oregon in the CFP semifinal, and then they had to beat Miami in the national championship game.
By the way, none of those games close to Indiana outside of the Big Ten championship.
No, none. Not anywhere close to their home turf.
Like, they were all over the place.
I mean, their opponent was in their home stadium last night. Miami was playing in their building, and Indiana still got it done. So it's difficult, man. It's going to be difficult to end that drought. And could it happen in 2026? Yeah, it could. Is that my expectation? No, it's not. I don't feel like I have adequate reason to have cultivated that expectation yet with where Oklahoma's roster is.
I will say this before we get back to the text line. Hats off to Fernando Mendoza last night, man.
What a dog.
Because he got killed. And honestly, and those of you that listened yesterday know that I picked Miami to win that game. And it was because I thought Mesidor and Bain were going to get to Mendoza, and they did. But hats off to him because he's earned the ice bath today.
Outlaw Devil on the text line says, okay, I'm a noob. What is Randall Stevens' background? Former CEO of AT&T.
Yes.
So, highly successful and well-to-do business person who joined the University of Oklahoma in a pro bono type of role. He does not take a check from the university. He's just there to add his insights and expertise. And by all accounts, he's done a great job and has been a highly positive influence in every way on that building since he arrived.
Kyle from Salisaw, how big, as far as years, is our championship window right now? I honestly think if BV stays and recruiting stays hot like it is in 27, we should be real contenders through 2030. Just curious for y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that in this day and age, the quote-unquote championship window really exists in college football.
Bingo.
You with me on that?
That's an NFL and NBA thing. There's no championship window in college football until we get multi-year binding contracts.
Exactly, because everything these days is a one-year contract.
Yes, there's too much turnover for you to have a championship window that spans more than 1 year.
And too much potential for fluctuation.
Yep.
So I don't buy into the notion of a quote-unquote championship window existing in college football right now. I think year to year you kind of dictate whether the championship window is open in a given season or not, based on what you have done on the recruiting trail and what you do in the transfer portal to supplement your losses and shortcomings.
So let me ask you this. Is Oklahoma's championship window open in 2026?
Yes.
I would agree.
I think Oklahoma can win a championship in 2026. However, there are also at least 10 or 12 other teams in the sport right now that are in the same place.
And possibly one that will pop up that we don't even consider right now.
Mm-hmm. Because there will be some team that outpaces expectations and things just kind of gel for them in such a way. Like, let's say they have a quarterback that nobody realizes is as good as he is. I mean, it's easy to pick Mendoza as a great example of this phenomenon.
Yep.
Like, that's Indiana's not where they are last night without Fernando Mendoza. They have a great team all around, and it takes all 22 for those guys to win week to week. But Fernando Mendoza was the straw that stirred the drink this year for Indiana. And so, man, that's why there's going to be so much pressure heaped upon the shoulders of John Mateer this next season at Oklahoma, is because, yeah, he's coming back for year 2, and yeah, you know, he's a high-dollar acquisition in the transfer portal, and OU fans have seen what he is capable of when he is playing his best ball, and there are high expectations for the team as a whole, but you've now seen with your own 2 eyes, after a couple years where, you know, I would posit that J.J. McCarthy wasn't terribly instrumental to Michigan's playoff push in 2023, nor was Will Howard for Ohio State in 2024. But Fernando Mendoza made a huge difference this year for Indiana.
Yeah.
And you saw what a difference a high-level quarterback, a high-level processor, a guy with high-level accuracy at that position and toughness can make for a team with legit championship aspirations. And so there will be no more scrutinized figure in the Oklahoma football world over the next 11 months than John Mateer. And you can argue that's the way things usually are at Oklahoma, but even more so, it's going to be heightened with the season ahead.
One last thing. You talked about a transfer quarterback being as instrumental as Fernando Mendoza was. How about Trinidad Chambliss?
There you go, man.
We left Ole Miss for dead at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, because we're like Austin Simmons.
Yeah. Lost all those guys on defense, lost some guys on offense. Didn't expect what we saw, but transfer quarterback, you never know.
Who will be the Trinidad Chambliss of 2026? Time will tell. 405-651-3439 is the text line. Keep firing away with your questions, comments, feedback. One more segment on the other side with you here on Locked In. This is The Ref, the home of Sooner fans. We shall return.
A true Sooner fan wouldn't be caught dead without the KREF app. Join the Army. Get the app. Tell your friends. This is The Ref, where diehard Sooner fans listen.
At Lander CDJR of Norman, it's the Start Something New sales event, starting the new year off with huge savings, like up to $15,500 off of MSRP, or get $9,000 off and 0% financing for 60 months on select new 26 Ram 1500 Bighorn trucks in stock. Or take up to $12,000 off of MSRP on select new 26 Ram 2500 Bighorns, and get a 10-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty. Ram 1500 stock number TN169555 must finance with Stellantis Financial for 0% for well-qualified buyers. Ram stock number TG165779. The Oaks at Mustang is now leasing. Conveniently located on County Line Road and the Turnpike in Mustang, the Oaks has spacious 1- and 2-bedroom apartments with large walk-in closets, package lockers, and even a sparkling pool. The Oaks is leasing now, so you don't want to wait. Contact the Oaks and Mustang on their website at theoaksatmustang.com or call 405-927-2566 to be where everyone will want to be. 405-927-2566 or online, theoaksinmustang.com.
Flu season is here, and getting sick was never in your game plan. When you're sidelined by illness, don't wait on a doctor's appointment and don't waste a trip to the ER. Get back in the lineup fast with same-day care from Norman Regional. With urgent care and walk-in clinics across Moore and Norman, they're always ready to make the right call. Already a Norman Regional patient? They've got your records on hand to draft up the winning play right when you need it. Find the clinic nearest to you at normanregional.com or dial 405-515-5000. Norman Regional Urgent Care and Walk-In Clinics, open when you need it.
are calling your way at the Showplace Theater with acts like Eli Young Band, February 6th. Matt Matthews, February 14th.
I was pretending to smoke a cigarette with a Cheeto, and I would share it with my friends.
Dylan Gossett, February 20th. And Christopher Cross, February 28th. Riverwind is OKC's favorite casino experience.
Life is yours to spend. Spend it expanding your balance. Spend it expanding your mind. Spend it wondering what comes next. Spend it trusting that God has a plan. Spend it taking small steps in your own life. Spend it making a big impact on someone else's. First United Bank. Spend life wisely.
Built for success? How about Built by Law? Law Custom Homes and Construction is here to build your next home. With over 30 years of experience, Barry and Angela Law pride themselves on building the best quality homes in Norman. Locally owned and operated, Law Custom Homes and Construction can also help you with carpet, tile, siding, windows, granite, and roofing. Don't wait. Call Barry Law at 405-919-7118 and let Law Custom Homes build your next quality home. That's 405-919-7118.
Hey guys, it's Dory Noka. Have you been involved in an auto accident? If so, it's time to contact the OKC Car Crash Clinic of Dr. Martin Lopez. He's a board-certified and fellowship MD with unparalleled training and experience. Dr. Lopez works with a great team of healthcare professionals and attorneys to help you achieve the best physical and financial recovery. Contact Dr. Lopez at 405-86-CRASH or at okccrash.com. Don't forget to listen every week to the Dory Noka Show for the Impact Player of the Game, brought to you by Dr. Martin Lopez.
A public service announcement from Oklahoma Human Services. Hey Oklahomans, did you know updating your SNAP food benefits info is a SNAP? Have you changed jobs or hours? Has your monthly cost of housing changed? Have your household members changed? Maybe you've recently moved. If you're a recipient of SNAP benefits in Oklahoma, visit okdhslive.org to update your information. That's okdhslive.org. It's a SNAP, Oklahoma.
405-651-3439 if you want to check in with us via the text line. Or you can also hit us up in the YouTube chat where our man Drake Dykin put together a little poll for all of you YouTube viewers. He wanted to know, going into the show, which position did OU upgrade the most at in the transfer portal? And I figured there would be a consensus, Grayson. I'm honestly a little bit surprised that that poll went as one-sided, or I should say culminated in such one-sided fashion as it did.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the numbers?
Yeah, let me grab it. Here we go. So which position group was most improved by Oklahoma in the portal? 94% of y'all said tight end.
And 94% of y'all are exactly right.
Amen.
Because ain't no doubt, Oklahoma got a lot better. Worlds better at tight end. And they got better other places, no doubt. They got better at wide receiver. Depending on what happens with Owen Heineke, and perhaps even regardless of what happens with Owen Heineke, you can argue they got a lot better at linebacker with the addition of Cole Sullivan. I would say they got better on the offensive line. Not substantially, but marginally better on the offensive line, all told. But tight end, man, looking at where that tight end room was and who was in it in 2025 versus who's going to be in it in 2026, we're talking night and day. Not just because of who's going to be playing, but because of who's going to be coaching as well.
Yeah, that too. No, I mean, tight end's the right answer here. Now, Cole Sullivan, I think, is my favorite addition individually.
He's really freaking good, man.
He's my favorite, but it's unquestioned that the position that was improved the most is definitely going to be the tight end position. And that's going to help in a lot of different ways. Ted and I talked about this yesterday. when you think about the run blocking is going to be better, so hopefully your run game is going to be better as a result, which means your play action is going to be better, which also means you could take more shot plays and stretch the ball down the field more than Oklahoma tried. So I think there are going to be a lot of residual effects that are possible with the upgrades at tight end.
On the text line, Scotty Takati says, I feel bad for John Mateer. He's not good enough to win a championship. And to be clear, I understand why you would think that. I understand why you would feel that way. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong for believing that. What I will say is that I myself am not ready to make that judgment yet. I would like to see what John Mateer looks like in 2026, and my hope is that we do get to see what John Mateer looks like in 2026 when his campaign isn't bisected by thumb surgery. Now, am I going to explain away all of the issues that John Mateer had in 2025 by citing the thumb surgery? Absolutely not. There were mistakes that he made. There were weaknesses and shortcomings in his game that cannot be directly explained by the mere phenomenon of, oh, he got his hand cut open by Dr. Stephen Shin in late September. It's not all on the thumb. John Mateer isn't a perfect football player if his thumb is healthy. But could John Mateer be good enough to put Oklahoma in position to win a national championship in 2026? Yes, I believe he could be. Do I know that? No. But I am willing to go into 2026, with the understanding that John Mateer has better weapons around him at wide receiver, at tight end, and I think that backfield is going to be certainly healthier than it was a year ago. I like the addition of Lloyd Avant. I'm not sure how much he's going to play, at least offensively, for Oklahoma when you have Jonathan Hatton and Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson in the mix, but I think Avant provides some value there. So I think everything around John Mateer is going to be better. The offensive line is going to be better. A lot of continuity there, a lot of additional experience there, and just some elite athletes up front in general for Oklahoma. Much better skill position weapons. And so with that understanding, I'm willing to head into 2026 with my overarching opinion of what John Mateer is as a football player still open to influence.
And I'd say still open to getting better, too. And he's going to be scrutinized. Coach Kuzieski and Ben Arbuckle are going to be scrutinized for whether or not they can refine this dude. But, I mean, there's not many quarterbacks. I'll say this again. I said this a couple of weeks ago. Got a lot of flack for this. There are not a whole lot of quarterbacks around the country that are set up better for success than John Mateer. His own offensive coordinator, the number one defense in a conference, upgrades all over the place at wide receiver and tight end, offensive line that was pretty solid, especially in pass pro until the last game of the year. Running game's got to be better, but guess what? Do you need it perfect? So there's not many other quarterbacks that are set up better for success than him, and at this point, he's got to play. He's got to be a superstar at this point in time.
Big Wink asked me a question, directed a question to me that I want to loop you in on because I want your opinion on as well.
Okay.
He said, if you don't see the roster as ready, then where on the roster does there need to be change or improvement in order for Oklahoma to be, quote-unquote, ready to compete for a championship? What's the Achilles heel right now, if there is one?
What's the Achilles heel right now? Well, I think the roster is ready to compete for a championship. I don't know how much more ready you can be. I don't know if they have an Achilles heel, but they've got a limiting factor. And we just talked about him.
Uh-huh.
Like, there are a few other quarterbacks in the country that if you dropped them into this situation, Oklahoma's probably in the top 5 of national championship favorites. So I don't think they have a catastrophic weakness, Oklahoma. At least not right now. Maybe that run game doesn't improve, but they do still have a limiting factor until proven otherwise, and his name is John Mateer.
No, you're exactly right. That is the most volatile variable in the equation.
Mm-hmm.
John Mateer, if he is lights out in 2026, could make Oklahoma a very difficult team for anyone in the nation to contend with. if John Mateer is just the exact same guy that he was in 2025, even with a healthy thumb, then the Sooners' ceiling is probably exactly what they got this past year, which is 10 wins and a first-round exit in the CFP.
Yes.
And we're talking ceiling. More realistically, probably an 8 or 9 win team. Because I don't know that you're going to have 2 or 3 games swing on Tate Sandell's leg this time around the way that they did this past season.
That's a good point.
So, to me, the most volatile variable in the equation is John Mateer. I will give you 2 areas of weakness that I perceive right now. And I would even I don't know that I would categorize them as weaknesses because there's a good chance they never have to get exposed. But 2 areas of concern for me are depth at defensive tackle and depth in the defensive backfield.
Sure.
I do not think Oklahoma's secondary is as deep as it was in 2025. So if injuries start to mount there, I can foresee that becoming a weakness. And though David Stone and Jaden Jackson are undeniably excellent football players, I just don't know what to expect from anyone else that's going to be in that defensive tackle rotation. I assume Bishop Thomas is going to be a decent player in the mix there, Georgia State transfer. I assume Kenny Ozuwalu is going to be able to give you something. I assume Trent Wilson is going to be ready to step into that rotation in some capacity. But those are all assumptions, Grayson. So that to me is the twofold list of vulnerabilities that I see for Oklahoma when you just look at roster construction. Offensively, I honestly, words I did not imagine I would be saying this early in the offseason, perhaps at all.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I feel better about the offense than I do the defense.
I've been waffling back and forth with how to phrase this. And I'm just gonna say the most natural way it comes off the tongue. Brent Venables' defense. Go ahead. What were we gonna say?
Well, I guess maybe I should clarify what I mean when I say that.
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's not saying I feel better about the offense than the defense is probably the wrong phrasing. I feel like it's more of a sure thing in 2026. It's more stable, the outlook on the offensive side of the ball than the defensive side of the ball.
Maybe so. I don't know if I'd agree with that just because of all the continuity with Venables and a lot of the cornerstone pieces of the defense coming back. But what if the defense takes a step back? You just brought it up. They're lighter at tackle. They're lighter in the secondary. What do we know about Brent's defense? They play a lot of dudes.
Yes, they do.
They rotate a lot of dudes.
And they thrived on depth in 2025.
Yes, they did.
And that, if I could sum it all up in one kind of concise explanation there as to why I have a little bit of apprehension about the defense heading into 2026, more so than I do about the offense. It's just that. It's that I don't know if Oklahoma's second team is going to be as good this year as their second team was last year. And so if you're just talking about the starting 11, I feel like you can very reasonably make the argument that Oklahoma's starting 11 on defense is every bit as good, if not better, than the starting 11 that we just saw in 2025. But you're going to play a lot more than 11 guys, and you will run into some attrition, some injuries at a certain point down the line. And so that is the skepticism that I carry with me heading into the offseason about the defense. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, I think the main thing that has me feeling so good about that unit, in addition to what we discussed, which is just that the strength and the depth that Oklahoma has cultivated at the skill positions around John Mateer, most specifically with their work in the transfer portal. But to me, even a bigger deal is the fact that you're bringing back 4 of 5 starters on the offensive line.
Yes.
And the 4 that you're bringing back, Jake Michaela, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Michael Fasusi, Ryan Foje, NFL dudes.
Yeah.
NFL dudes.
Will they be able to run block, though? I think is going to be a major point of contention because you mentioned J.J. McCarthy earlier about quarterbacks that didn't carry the team to a national championship. Michigan was one of the best football teams at running the football. So if John Mateer does not improve exponentially, you're going to have to be able to run the ball. Otherwise, you could be in some trouble.
Yeah, you're going to have to be able to run the ball, period. Like, that's just prerequisite for Oklahoma's success in 2026. They're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to run it a lot better than they did in 2025. We got all off season to talk about all of that, though. We're out of time here on this Tuesday. We'll do it all again tomorrow, though. I won't, not tomorrow. A little bit of a shift in the schedule tomorrow. It'll be Josh Helmer and Grayson in this slot tomorrow. My schedule's wonky because I'll be down in Houston. Out on the road. But you will get an hour of OU football and recruiting talk with Grayson and Josh right here on these very airwaves tomorrow, as you always do here on Locked In. This is The Ref, the Home of Sooner.